This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
It is Thursday, September 18th. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Nicola Junowitz, and I will be your host on the Wisconsin Live Desk here for the next hour or so. Okay, so we have a lot going on, both nationally and locally. We're actually going to begin with a story out of Milwaukee where efforts are underway to basically prevent reckless driving in our city. If you are a viewer of our news, which we certainly hope that you are, you've probably heard a lot of reports about efforts that have been underway to prevent and curb, you could say, reckless driving in the city of Milwaukee. The city has put forth several efforts like bump outs, other traffic calming measures, redirecting some streets, enhanced enforcement, things like that, to make sure that drivers are safe on our roads. So we're going to take now our Abril Preciado. She is joining us now live to talk to us a little bit about what she just heard in a news conference, Abril, where they released some data on this. Tell me about it.
At Walker Square Park, as you can see, it's an open area. We see a playground over there. We're actually close by a school. I don't know if you guys can see it. I'm having our photojournalist Eddie kind of pan over there, zooming in. You can see a school, we can see a playground, and right behind it is actually the highway as well. Once again, as officials were talking about during the press conference, they were saying that obviously this is a neighborhood that many families live in. Working families, obviously children here, due to the proximity to the park, the homes, the schools that are right here. Lots of places over here, and one of the main things they really wanted to tackle in this specific neighborhood that we're at today was pretty much the reckless driving that happens, the speedy drivers that drive throughout this throughout the area. And like many areas in Milwaukee, this is one of the areas that they had identified as those affected by these speeders. So I'm gonna have you guys kind of walk over here with me, kind of follow me over here. Just to kind of show you guys what they talked to us about. I'm so sorry, Eddie. I'm having our photojournalist working a little bit.
Hey, Abril, I'm so sorry. I hate to interrupt you. Hey, Abril, can you hear me? It's Nicola. Can you hear me? I'm so sorry. We are having, we are having some technical issues on our end. So we're going to come to break here, get this ironed out, and then come back to you. Oh, wait a minute. It was just fixed. I don't know what changed, but it was just fixed. That was so bizarre. Okay, I'm sorry, Abril. Please please get back to what you were talking about. I'm so sorry.
Oh, sorry, I don't know what that was at. As we were paused right now, we just saw a sheriff's office unit kind of zooming through the street. We kind of see him with the sirens right now. We don't know what's going on, but that kind of caught our attention right now. Again, as we mentioned, this is one of the neighborhoods that was identified as one of the neighborhoods and streets, really. Washington Street, which is what we're on right now, has been one of the areas that has been identified for, speedy drivers, reckless driving, and this is the reason why we're over here, because they have implemented safety features, or as they would say, traffic calming features like this roundabout, which you see right here. This has just been implemented just recently. I believe they said in the last year. And then there's a couple of other humps around on the road as well to help tackle the traffic. Look, I don't know if you guys just saw the car kind of like do a little bump in the middle of the street, which is part of another tactic that the city of Milwaukee is doing to help with this ongoing reckless driving situation, and just to kind of calm down traffic, especially in these neighborhoods within the city. Once again,
Donald Trump and Republicans are afraid and scared of the growing number of Black and Latino and Asian citizens in the state of Texas. Donald Trump and his Republican allies, they are afraid of the damage that they are about to cause on this country with the passage of their big ugly bill. And
he says that, just like many other neighborhoods here in Milwaukee, speeding was a problem here. It is a problem here. And since they implemented these features like the roundabout that you see right here and the speed hump and other items that they included on here. I'm sorry, I can't find the word for it. But yeah, like other little alterations that they included on the street, it has helped diminish that as well and kind of helped reduce it. Now, during the press conference, as you explained, city officials pretty much talked about pretty much the plans that they have in the works to help with the reckless driving and calming down traffic overall. They mentioned the fact that there's several projects in the works as well. One of them, obviously, during the press conferences, many people asked about what happened about 35th and Bleat, which is where we recently saw the recent car crash that ended right there, where a family died after a car pursuit. They're saying that, they're working on new ways to kind of help tackle that as well, because obviously that was a result of a reckless driver, and then they were fleeing from the cops and whatnot. So that was something that they're still trying to tackle as well. They're currently discussing, from what we were told, on new methods to kind of help with tackling that specific issue as well. And also even like addressing the reckless driving and speedy drivers in huge streets like we hear at Teutonia National, where many people and many members of the community have continuously just told us that speedy drivers are driving there at such fast velocity, I should say. And just recently, when I was out there covering a story, we saw it ourselves. We saw just drivers driving super quick, above speed limits, and obviously it's a concern for residents. So they're saying that they're also looking for ways to help monitor that. One big project that's also coming up that they say that they hope to start next year is on National Street. The city engineer tells us that they're going to be completely reconstructing that whole street, tearing everything down, and adding new little features, not little features, but features on there, as well as technology to help tackle with speed drivers and reckless driving in the area. And it's just one of the many projects that they have in the works. Once again, this comes from several grants, state grants that they are able to get, as well as some help with DPW and whatnot. But this is just part of the works. They did emphasize the fact that these street calming projects have helped decrease with speedy drivers and crashes and car accidents, and their data shows it. I don't have the specific data with me, but I know they were emphasizing that, and that's what we kept hearing repeatedly during the press conference. As you can see right now, with the roundabout, if the roundabout wasn't here, these cars would have just kind of zoomed through, but it kind of allows them to kind of like stop and look both ways and kind of then continue to go on the road. And we have seen that throughout the time that we have been out here, whether it be with like a regular neighborhood car that lives around here or that's just going through the street, to a bigger truck, which you saw earlier, right, just maybe like a couple of minutes ago. But yes, that's pretty much what we're seeing right now. Once again, we are at Walker Square Park. Again, it's noon right now. Many people are out here kind of either taking time to take their lunch. It's a really calm area. Again, a lot of families live here. We are close by a school, and just, from what we were able to grasp from the resident that lives here, safety is something that is very important to them, and they want to make sure that the kids are safe, that their families are safe. And adding these features here, at least that from what that resident told us, is that he feels that he could finally breathe. He could finally ride his bike to school with his kids and, feel safe about it as well.
Not to mention, Abril, it really is aesthetically pleasing to look at it too. It's almost like a little park area in the middle of a street. I know roundabouts are typically kind of controversial for people because they do force people to slow down, but you're right, the numbers don't lie. I mean, they really are safer when it comes to head-on collisions versus lower impact crashes or slower crashes. So I'm glad to see that the community that surrounds it is embracing it. Abril, thank you so much for your time this morning and being so generous with us, or I should say this afternoon. And we can't wait to see your story on our later newscast tonight, breaking down some of that data and some of those numbers that the city is pointing to show that these traffic calming measures are working.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
All right, Abril, thank you so much, of course, as always. All right, so we're going to take a quick break now, kind of catch our bearings here a little bit, and then we are going to head, I believe, to our nation's capital, where there's a press conference going on surrounding a really hot-button issue right now. We're talking about redistricting and gerrymandering. That's coming up after this short break. I will see you in 2 minutes.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk, everybody. Okay, now that we've checked in with some local news happening today in terms of a positive update from the city of Milwaukee when it comes to traffic calming measures and the data that is pointing to that, yes, those measures are in fact working. We now want to head to a really hot button issue that's coming out of our nation's capital right now. Democratic lawmakers are gathering outside of Congress to talk about redistricting. Essentially, they want to make it illegal. So let's listen in. This started at noon here. We've seen several speakers take to the podium. Let's check in with this, and then we'll get right back to you.
How we strengthen our democracy. For it is the Redistricting Reform Act that will give back the values, the ideals that our founding fathers wanted for the people to pick their representation. Thank you. And my honor to introduce to you the amazing congressman from Southern California, Brad Sherman.
Hello, I'm Brad Sherman from California's best named city, Sherman Oaks. Well, before I came to Congress, I served on the board of California Common Cause. And I saw Common Cause fight the battle that we're fighting here today. When I got here, Zoe had her bill, which you have handled how many different Congresses? More times than I can count, long before a bunch of cameras would be here to talk about it. And now it's more critical than ever, because we're told we see an administration that is becoming less popular, practicing the adage, if you can't beat them, cheat them. We also see a city that's so divided that it's all, how can we get something for our side, not how can we have a system that works in a fair manner for every American. And this legislation isn't just important to redistricting. It would be the first step this year, the first step for a long time, to move toward fairness and away from extreme partisanship, where you seek a partisan advantage in this state or that state. We need to prohibit mid-decade redistricting, require an independent commission that has worked so well in California, have criteria, including the Voting Rights Act, of course, mandate transparency. And I know that what's going on in California is of note. I'll simply point out that Common Cause led the battle for the California Redistricting Commission, recently has issued its criteria for when you should do redistricting in this mid-decade, and their points were proportionality, public participation, and that is exactly what we're seeing in California. But if Texas and other states weren't doing it, we wouldn't be proportional to anything else. So I hope it's not too late to pull the plug on what's going on in so many states. But if that doesn't happen, California will have to respond.
Well, thank you very much. We have, I know it's very warm out here, but we have time for a question or two if people have them. Yes.
Hey, Rep. Lofgren, I believe Padilla said that you guys are offering this bill to offer Republicans an off-ramp from the vicious cycle. Have any Republicans taken you up on that offer yet? I know this
Not yet. You know, as I noted in my opening remarks, when we had the majority and we had independent redistricting, not a single Republican voted for it. Now, some Republicans in California can see a more challenging environment in their own districts, and they are talking a different game. We would welcome their support, and we'll wait and see.
Yeah, have you reached out to like Kevin Kiley or any of the others?
No, but we will. Yes. Yes.
Hi, Congresswoman. How do you square saying every state should have an independent commission while also asking California voters to ignore its independent commission?
Well, we, you know, when Trump called the Texas governor, we thought that was highly improper to take 5 seats. And our first reaction was, could we match that in California so that they would stop? I mean, we like our commission. We support our commission. We thought, well, we'll say we can do this and maybe they'll stop. Instead of stopping, they doubled down. And here's the question that we faced. In the face of Trump trying to prevent people from overturning these wrong-headed policies, we can do nothing or we can do something. And we decided we should do something. And so we prepared a map that would obviate what the Republicans are doing in Texas, but with a couple of caveats. First, it has to go to the voters. It's not just up to us. The voters of California have to decide their fate because there's tremendous damage that has been done to California by the Republican Congress and by Trump. Millions of Californians are losing their health care. Children in schools are not getting lunch. The damage is severe. Hospitals, it's estimated that 17 hospitals in California in rural areas will simply close the door. So we're putting that question to the voters of California. The second criteria was we want to be consistent with the Voting Rights Act. And we solicited experts who told us not only did the proposed map that the voters will decide on comply with the Voting Rights Act, it was actually a better Voting Rights Act map than the commission drew. And finally, temporary. This is an emergency response to an emergency that Trump created. It goes away after the next census, and the commission will go back to doing its own map drawing as we all want. Thank you very much.
Excuse me. Okay, you were just listening to a press conference out of our nation's capital. You just saw several House Democrats speaking about their Redistricting Reform Act. Essentially, what they want to do is make redistricting illegal. As we know, this was a really hot button issue that popped up in the state of Texas here, and then kind of in the aftermath of all of that, California as well. So now we are going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back with some local news that I think you're going to like. Some good news coming out of summer.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk. My name is Nicola. We have some local news now to tell you about, some exciting updates here in our great city and in our great state. I know what you're thinking. Fall is just, a couple days away now, and well, it still feels like summer. Next summer is a long way away, but it's never too early to kind of get excited for it, right? And start looking forward to it. And I think that that is why Summerfest officials have been kind of announcing all of the headliners for next year. So as we've been reporting, Garth Brooks now doing 2 back-to-back nights to kind of kick off the 3-weekend format. But now we have our first official headliner for Summerfest. So yeah, the second weekend of the 3 weekends, Ed Sheeran is going to be coming to the AMP. This is so exciting. This is part of a greater tour that he is working on right now. I think I've got a tag board that I can show you. Yeah, Summerfest posting this morning just announced Ed Sheeran is bringing the Loop Tour to Summerfest at the AMP on June 25th, 2026. Get all the info and sign up for tickets now at edsheeran.com. This is really exciting. This is the first time I should say that Ed Sheeran has been in Milwaukee since 2018. Kind of interesting then, though. He was supposed to play Miller Park, but it had to be postponed because they made it to the World Series. So really exciting stuff. I kind of like whatever that means or how that bodes for the Brewers this time around. Kind of just like a kind of a neat little tie there to 2018. So yeah, I'm on the Ed Sheeran website right now. I'm taking a look here where I can find some tickets. Okay, let's see. Here we got tour. December. Man, he's got a long tour. He's headed all over the place. That's what's kind of neat about this too, is when you take a look at just some of the different cities that these major artists are going to. I mean, we're talking Munich, Paris, the UK, Manchester, Dublin. We're talking, I mean, this is really an international tour that is coming here to Milwaukee, so that's really exciting. He's going to be at Soldier Field on June 27th of 2026, and now we know he is going to be at American Family Insurance Amphitheater on Thursday, June 25th of 2026. General on-sale admission is 10 a.m. Central, Friday, the 26th of September. So I think that's next Friday now. That's when you'll be able to get your tickets. You can also sign up for pre-sale as well as Amex pre-sale. So the artist pre-sale is Tuesday, September 23rd, and that starts at 9 a.m. Again, public on-sale is going to be Friday, September 26th at 10 a.m. So set your reminders on your phones. This is really exciting that Ed Sheeran is coming to Summerfest next year to kick off the second weekend. It's on a Thursday night, I should mention. Okay, so now from arts to maybe a different kind of entertainment, let's talk about the Packers now. They're playing the Cleveland Browns on Sunday away. It's a noon kickoff game, and of course, you can watch that game right here on Fox 6. We've got kind of a full day for you of football. 10 a.m. Fox NFL kickoff, 11 a.m. Fox NFL Sunday, then the big games at noon. Then at 3:25 p.m. it is Cowboys at Bears. I know that's another one that is of some local interest perhaps because, of course, you know, we've got this border battle thing going with Illinois. Then at 10:30 p.m. you can watch the Fox 6 Sports Blitz, where we're breaking down all of the results there for that game, talking to the players. You know, they're off to a really great start so far with 2 wins at home. Let's see how they do on the road. My suspicion is that they're going to do just great. Okay, wonderful. So now that we've kind of touched in here with some of your local talkers, we're going to take a quick break and we're going to come back and talk to our political reporter, Jason Calvi. So please stay with us. We will be right back.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Welcome back, everybody. Let's turn to some business news now, shall we? The Fed has cut interest rates for the first time this year. This is amid a weakening labor market. Let's take a look here at some of the numbers here, break it down for you. The Federal Reserve announcing yesterday the first rate cut of the year as policymakers lowered its benchmark interest rate by 25 basis points. As signs of a weakening labor force, of course, outweighing elevated inflation. Following the central bank's decision to cut those rates for the first time since December of 2024, the Fed funds rate will sit at a new range of 4% to 4.25%. Of course, this cut is coming after the Fed left rates unchanged at its first 5 meetings this year. Of course, that was mid tariff situations and other economic uncertainty. So that is the latest on that from the Fed yesterday. So wanted to bring you up to speed on that. Also, any minute now, we're going to get an update from Jason Calvi. Speaking of your kind of economic news, this one is a little bit of more local impact. Bombshell announcement this morning from Microsoft announcing a $4 billion investment in their Mount Pleasant data center. So this is really exciting. Microsoft held a news conference today to announce their next big infrastructure investment in the Badger State. Brad Smith, the vice chair and the president of Microsoft, and Noel Walsh, president of Microsoft Cloud Operations and Innovation, along with state and local leaders, were all on hand this morning to make that announcement. This is really exciting. So they're going to be investing an additional $4 billion to further expand that planned data center that's already kind of in the works in Mount Pleasant. Let's take now our Jason Calvi. He was at that press conference that I just mentioned, kind of listening to everything and getting all of the updates. All right, Jason, so fill our live desk viewers in. What does this mean for Mount Pleasant and really the entire state of Wisconsin?
So, they've already started construction. They're going to finish that first data process. This is a data center. It's an AI data center, and inside that data center, which is going to open in early 2026, Microsoft says they're going to have the world's strongest supercomputer, 10 times stronger, he says, than any other supercomputer in the entire country. So that's what they're going to have inside of that first data center that's going to open in 2026. That's a $3.3 billion investment on behalf of Microsoft in Mount Pleasant, which is in Racine County. Today, Microsoft President Brad Smith came back to Racine County and made an announcement. They're going to be doubling that investment. So they're going to build a second data center. They're investing $4 billion, that's again with a B, $4 billion into that second center, so doubling their initial investment. That'll be over the course of the next 3 years to build that second data center.
Yeah, this is, I can imagine, obviously wonderful news for the Badger State in terms of putting us at the cutting edge here of AI, which is really the future when it comes in terms of technology. Can you comment at all, Jason, on, what the governor had to say about this in terms of the local impact that this investment will have on the rest of us here in Wisconsin?
So they're expecting that construction will continue now for several more years. Again, that first data center was going to be completed in 2026. They estimate about 1,000 jobs in the construction part of this. So those jobs now will continue for another 3 years because of this $4 billion investment that was announced today. So that's the first thing, is the jobs. And what are the long-term jobs going to be on site once both of those data processing centers or the data centers are completed? The first one, again, opening up in 2026, they're expecting about 400 jobs just in that first center, so maybe potentially a doubling once they open up the second center in a few more years.
And I also understand, Jason, there's a little bit of a partnership that's kind of in the works here with Gateway Tech College so that we can train and educate our own kids to work in places like this.
Yeah, because these jobs, though, those permanent jobs that we're talking about, the several hundred permanent jobs in those data centers, those are going to be high-tech jobs. And so, yeah, they're partnering with Gateway Tech. They're also going to be partnering, they are already partnering with UWM. So UWM is the 7th, what they call AI co-innovation lab in the entire world. Microsoft has had 6 of them across the whole world. So and the only one on a college campus is the 7th one, which is right there at UWM. It's the 7th co-innovation lab across the entire world right here in Milwaukee. And they're really trying to train students and help them utilize AI and learn and be equipped with those sorts of things to help also community businesses and others using that technology. That's what that innovation lab is going to be doing and is already starting to do right at UWM.
Now, Jason, I know that this press conference just wrapped up. You just got back. You're still gathering information for your story tonight. But do you know that when we're talking about these hundreds of jobs here, I know with tech, a lot of those positions are remote. Do you know if this will mean people relocating and moving to Wisconsin, or is this going to be a situation where a lot of these individuals are kind of signing in from elsewhere?
Didn't get any of that perspective as far as where the people are going to go, but hey, if you're a high-tech person that is able to work in one of these data centers, maybe you were able to go through the AI Innovation Lab at UWM or go to one of our other engineering schools, MSOE or something like that, then potentially you would be in the pipeline for a job there, but I don't want to get ahead of that hiring process and who they're looking for. Again, they're just kind of starting that process to staff up to those 400 people that are going to be working for Microsoft. Now, another key issue we really got to talk about is the environmental impact, because there's some environmental groups that are very worried about these data centers coming to town. One of the issues is with water. There is a group in Milwaukee, Milwaukee Riverkeeper, that asked to see, they did what we have laws in Wisconsin, open record laws that allow us to request documents from our government to keep them accountable, to find out what's going on behind the scenes, et cetera. So Milwaukee Riverkeeper requested a document from the city of Racine. How much water is Racine going to be pumping to the data center in Mount Pleasant? The water is going to be coming from the shore on Lake Michigan from Racine to go to Mount Pleasant. And so they asked for that about 7 months ago. And for months and months and months, they waited. There was no response from the city. So finally, they sued. They sued the city of Racine and said, hey, we have the right to this document. This is a public record. You got to turn it over. So finally, the city of Racine, after that lawsuit was filed, did turn that document over. It's one page. We got our hands on it as well. And it shows just how much water is going to be utilized, according to Microsoft, with this plant. So I have that number right here in front of me. And really intriguing, because it's, pull that up for you, 2.8 million gallons per year. Let me repeat that, Nicola. 2.8 million gallons per year. Does it sound like a lot? Well, guess what? That number is equivalent to about 4 Olympic-sized swimming pools. Oof. Yeah, so not a lot of water that they're actually going to utilize. When you see what some of the other data centers have used across the country, it's a lot more than that. Even when you look at how much We Energies is using for some of their coal-powered plants to cool those off, they use more than that. They use a million. I mean, I'll get to the numbers to you at 5 and 6 tonight, but yeah. But this is a slim amount of water. The key question, Nicola, is electricity. And Microsoft is honest here. They say we're going to use a very small amount of water, but we're going to use a ton of electricity for this. So that comes into rate hikes, and people are wondering, okay, well, you're gonna have to build infrastructure to take over and provide energy for this massive complex. Is that gonna mean all of the ratepayers across the area are gonna see a rate hike? And what Microsoft is asking from the state of Wisconsin Public Service Commission is they said, give that rate hike just to Microsoft. Let Microsoft cover that. That's what Microsoft is asking from the state. They're also going to do things like they're installing a solar farm in Portage County, they say, to offset the carbon footprint of their project here in Racine County. So there's several things going on. Again, you know, environmental groups are still worried about how much energy these sites are going to use, and there's going to continue to be discussion and debate about that, but we do know that that $4 billion expansion is on the horizon over the course of the next couple of years. And you know, it's hard to blame them, right, Jason? Because when you have a lot of new things like this, it's hard to not look at, to have concerns about, can we support this? Do we want to support something like this? It kind of all makes sense. I also wanted to ask you before I let you go, I think a lot of people too in this community and in the southeast corner of our state are a little bit hesitant to get excited about projects like this after what happened with Foxconn. Can you talk about just the commitment that's there? Like, how do we know that Microsoft is going to follow through on this announcement today? Well, we know that they're following through because it's being built. When you go down to Mount Pleasant, you go where we were today, and we'll show you that video tonight because we had our drone fly up above and looks down and you can see the whole complex there. You're going to see a 2-story building rising up from what used to be a farm field, and that is where the world's most powerful supercomputer, according to Microsoft, that's going to be right there in that 2-story building in Mount Pleasant. So yes, the buildings are taking place. As far as the second $4 billion project, that construction right now is already underway. So we've got video of them clearing the land there and preparing that for that second data center in Mount Pleasant. All right, Jason Calvi, thank you so much. I guess, yeah, it's happening. It's already here. Still kind of a neat innovation to bring to our great state. Thank you so much. I look forward to seeing your reports on our evening news tonight. Thanks so much. I'll let you get back to it, Jason. Thank you so much.
All right. So we just got there a really important update from Jason Calvi. He was at a press conference this morning about Microsoft, a bombshell announcement coming from that company, a new $4 billion investment in the Mount Pleasant data center. We're talking the world's smartest computer is going to be right here in the Badger State, or at least that is what Microsoft is promising. With it, we're going to see hundreds of jobs come into the area, not just construction, but long-term, these kind of AI tech jobs are also coming as well. So a lot, as Jason alluded to, is kind of going on with this, a lot of layers here. So he's going to break that down on our evening news tonight. For now, I'm going to send us to a quick break so we can kind of catch our bearings, and I will see you on the other side.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Welcome back, everybody. Now that we got your Wisconsin news in, let's take a look now at your national news. We're going to head now to D.C., where D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser is defending her policies to Congress. She is now appearing to the House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform to talk about crime prevention policies in the nation's capital. Of course, this is all coming after National Guard troops were deployed to D.C. to help combat crime in the district. And what leaders found was that it was a very successful effort. As a result, now President Trump is now deploying National Guard troops to Memphis. He's also been talking about potentially bringing them to Chicago and other cities dealing with crime issues as well. So now, if we can, I'm going to send us to our nation's capital here to talk to or to listen in on what is going on at this House Oversight Committee hearing on crime in D.C. Let's take a listen in, shall we?
Child Health Report ignores gun violence, the leading cause of child death, which calls out the Trump administration for ignoring
without objection
gun violence
to order.
Kills more children in this country than any other cause, and the administration ought to be embarrassed by
without objection, so ordered. And I think Ms. Crockett's next.
Do you have a UC?
I'll recognize Ms. Green, then Ms. Crockett. Ms. Green, do you have a unanimous consent request?
I do, thank you. For the record, Phil Mendelson's post here says repealing our laws is not liberation. Republicans in Congress can't be trusted. They took $1 billion from us, are moving more than a dozen bills, rolling back home rule, and are trying to take away our elected independent attorney general and micromanaging our legislative process. I hope everybody watched Democrats vote against the vote that adds $1 billion back in for D.C. Thank you.
Without objection to order, Chair recognizes Ms. Crockett.
Yes, I request unanimous consent to enter into the record this September 16, 2025 article from Time titled "Trump Called for a Crackdown on the Radical Left, but Right-Wing Extremists Are Responsible for More Political Violence," which calls out the game the president is playing, in which he creates a fictional problem while downplaying the real history of far-right violence against the American public, from the Oklahoma City bombing to January 6th. I got another one.
Without objection, so ordered.
All right, the next one is for, it's an article from September 12, 2025. Article is from Democracy Docket titled, "I Couldn't Care Less, Trump's Downplaying of Right-Wing Violence Continues Long Pattern," which calls out the game the president is playing, in which he creates a fictional problem while downplaying the real history of far-right violence against the American public.
Without objection, so ordered. Chair now recognizes our newest member, Mr. Walkinshaw from Virginia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I want to express my gratitude to Leader Jeffries and Ranking Member Garcia for the opportunity to join this committee. And Mr. Chairman, I look forward to working with you and members on both sides of the aisle as we conduct our important work. My role here gives my constituents in Virginia's 11th District, which is home to one of the largest concentrations of federal employees in the nation, a voice in conducting oversight of the federal government at a time when the Trump administration's reckless DOGE cuts have undermined the effectiveness, accountability, and integrity of federal operations and threatened the livelihoods of the federal employees, contractors, and small businesses that I represent. I am firmly committed to protecting both the critical services our government provides to everyday Americans and the dedicated workforce behind them. With that, I want to thank Mayor Bowser, Chairman Mendelson, Attorney General Schwab, and Mr. Jackson for taking the time to be here today. I also want to welcome, we have a number of other members of the City Council who have joined us. Thank you for joining us, and thank you all for your service. 10 days ago, I was a local government official as well, serving on the Fairfax County Board of Supervisors, and that's a role that gave me an understanding and respect for the importance of the work that you do as local officials. Local government is the most accountable level of government because the decisions you all make directly and immediately impact your constituents' quality of life. And I know that your constituents, like mine in Fairfax, are not shy about telling you all what needs to be done or done differently. As President Reagan said, that government is best which remains closest to the people. And you all are closest to the people you represent, not us. As Mayor Bowser said in 1973, Congress passed the D.C. Home Rule Act to, among other things, grant to the inhabitants of the District of Columbia powers of local self-government. To achieve this goal, the Home Rule Act expressly gives D.C. residents the power to elect their mayor, legislative body, and attorney general. Some of my colleagues, however, while praising the benefits of local autonomy and authority elsewhere, seek to strip that autonomy from D.C. residents as part of an effort to support a federal takeover of our nation's capital by President Donald Trump. Another stated purpose of the Home Rule Act, and I haven't heard this mentioned today, was to, quote, relieve Congress of the burden of legislating upon essentially local district matters. Yet at a time when Congress should be focused on very urgent national matters, we are trying to micromanage D.C.'s local affairs in furtherance of President Trump's attempt to consolidate power. The American people are facing serious challenges. Our economy is faltering. Inflation is rising. Tariffs are driving up prices and job growth is stagnant. And unless this Congress acts, tax credits that help working families afford health care will soon expire.
Okay.
In my district and the districts of everyone here today, tens of thousands of people will see their health care costs skyrocket. And meanwhile, as has been mentioned, President Trump continues to cover up the Epstein files, and a government shutdown is looming. In the face of all of this, how does the majority choose to spend its time? By interfering in D.C.'s local government and further disenfranchising 700,000 Americans. They claim it's in the name of public safety, We've heard today from our witnesses many things that could be done to improve public safety in the District of Columbia. This is really part of a broader plan to help President Trump tighten his grip, to help him feel like he is in control while distracting from failed policies. Our constituents, Mr. Chairman, with the exception of Delegate Norton, are out there across the country, and they are wondering why this Congress and this committee seemingly has no time to solve the real problems they face in their communities, but seemingly all the time in the world to cosplay as mayors and council members for the District of Columbia. I yield back.
Chair recognizes Mr. Timmons from South Carolina.
I appreciate our new colleagues' prepared remarks. I've lived in Washington on and off over the last 15, 18 years for about 10 years. And up until 2 months ago, this city was in disrepair. It was unsafe. There were thousands of homeless people that were plaguing our public spaces. There were rampant mental health issues with these people that were living in squalor. There was incredible drug use. There were muggings. There were carjackings. There were just immense unnecessary violence because our city council here in Washington, D.C. refused to do their job. They refused to keep us safe. They refused to enforce the rule of law. They have a law that says you can't sleep in federal property, that you can't sleep in the streets. You know what? Zero enforcement. Zero. So yes, President Trump took extraordinary measures which were necessary to keep this city safe because this is our nation's capital. And yes, we will delegate responsibility to local government, but when they violate the very premise that we delegate their authority for, which is keeping us safe and running the city in a safe and efficient manner, they have violated their obligation to us. And I have been working on this for the last 6 years. I've worked with the mayor. I've worked with many members of city council to try to solve this problem because a lot of it is complicated. But you know what's not? What's not complicated is enforcing the rule of law. And I hate to pick on the Attorney General, but we're going to have a little conversation. You remember criminal law. Back in the day, you went to law school, I went to law school. The two principles of justice are deterrence, which is you have a criminal justice system that says if you do this, this is the consequence. Hopefully that will deter you from doing it. Whether that's carjacking, whether it's going into CVS and stealing something, whether it's killing somebody. Deterrence is one of the principles of justice. The second principle of justice is retribution, meaning if a loved one of mine is hurt, killed, I do not take matters into my own hands because I know that the government, that those that we have elected in positions of authority will hold them accountable to whatever degree that our society deems appropriate. I was a prosecutor for 5 years. You're the chief prosecutor now in D.C. Do you believe that the D.C. criminal justice system meets the two principles of justice that we learned week one in law school, deterrence and retribution?
Well, thank you for the question. Apparently, I also learned incapacitation and rehabilitation are other things that we think about our criminal justice system delivering. When you talk about homelessness, which we all need to continue to work as hard as we can to drive down, we have to separate out conduct from status. And I know this is something you also...
Apologies for that. All right, you are listening live right now to a House Oversight Committee meeting on D.C. crimes. It's featuring many D.C. leaders. You're hearing right now from Attorney General Schwab. We also heard from D.C. Council member, Chairman Phil Mendelson. He also is speaking as well, or testifying, I should say, before this committee. We also heard as well from D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser speaking as well. A big focal point so far of this hearing has been crime rates in our nation capital and what's being done to make them better. They've been talking about just sort of the aftermath, kind of a recap, so to speak, of President Donald Trump's 30-day emergency order that federalized D.C. police. National Guard's troops were brought in to reinforce local police, and it did see results with a significant, noticeable decrease in crime in our nation's capital. Now, President Trump had kind of been asked about potential plans to extend that 30-day order, which I should mention has expired. And he said, quote, "We have virtually no crime in D.C. right now, and we're going to keep it that way. It's our nation's capital. We're going to keep it that way, or we're going to federalize it again if we have to." But he said we don't have to anymore because it is in great shape. Those words coming from the president to reporters on Monday. Meanwhile, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser, we just heard from here, she had issued an order earlier this month instructing local police to cooperate with federal law enforcement agencies, though we should mention that ICE was excluded from that list of agencies that they were instructed to cooperate with. So as a result, we've kind of heard a little bit of a back and forth here from Democrats. They've responded with fierce opposition to this crackdown in D.C. Other communities in our country, I should mention, are also kind of going to be seeing a similar plan. Memphis is one of them, I should mention. The D.C. National Guard members, were also have been deployed to Memphis to help work on crime rates there. So that is sort of what's being discussed at this meeting, is what role should the federal government play moving forward in crime prevention in D.C. I'm going to read to you now a statement that I'd heard from Chairman Phil Mendelson, he's a D.C. council chairman. He said, quote, "In short, we are a beautiful city. Our public parks are well maintained. Our roads are in good condition. We have a world-class public transit system, and we are making strides in creating housing and attracting private investment. The deal with the commanders, given final approval by the council just yesterday, is just the latest example of our efforts to diversify the district's economy beyond the federal government." Okay, so that was coming from the chairman, and he also had submitted some oral and written testimony, and we just saw him there prior. So, okay, we are going to now kind of check back in, lighten things up a little bit if we can, to talk a little bit about your weather headed into not just the rest of today, but also for your weekend. I'm going to take a look here at G1. You're taking a look at our satellite and radar images. We are in for another summer-like afternoon here all across the viewing area, so that is certainly exciting. I know a lot of folks have really enjoyed that return to the summer-like temperatures here this week after kind of a little bit of a cold stretch that we saw prior. Yeah, we are going to be really comfy today. Our highs are in the low 80s. Love to see that. Overnight lows in the 60s. Weekend dropping a little bit to the 70s. Still, though, overnight lows in the 60s. Also, I wanted to pull up, if we can, your leaf peeping map. I feel like this is the time of year where everybody starts to get that itch to go take a nice drive and look at all of the beautiful fall foliage in Wisconsin. If you are headed out this weekend, this is according to Travel Wisconsin, you're going to be seeing a lot of green, lush leaves still. As you can see here, we only have just a couple of counties sort of in our northernmost border here with Michigan's Upper Peninsula that are even seeing low color right now. I know, driving around, you see some leaves that look like they're turning and you think, oh my gosh, it's happening. Well, we are still at that none stage, in case you're wondering. So, may still want to wait a couple of weeks before you take a nice drive out and do a little leaf peeping. All right, so now we are going to take a quick break here and just kind of regroup for a second, and then I will see you on the other side of this break in 2 minutes. Thank you for joining us on the Wisconsin Live Desk. We'll be right back.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk. We are going to now head back to our nation's capital, where we are gearing up for another press conference that's set to begin here in about 2 minutes. This is on rising healthcare costs that we are seeing all over the country. Employees and employers are set to be paying a lot more for health insurance. So we're going to listen in on that, kind of get ready for that, while I let my colleague Kim Murphy here get settled. So thank you so much for joining me for your first hour here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. Again, it is Thursday, September 18th, and we will see you very soon. So now I'm going to take you to our nation's capital.
From my Zoom. And so I just want to bring the DC residents into this committee, because I feel like they are being made invisible. And this really ugly picture that is not reflective. And I'm from Detroit. I've seen it happen to my city. And it's despicable in a way that I feel like, really goes up against our values. One of the things that I know in every abuse of power that, we let President Trump and the administration get away with in DC, it will be replicated. It will be expanded across the country, and it is going to tear apart our communities. Mr. Jackson, I talked to you about a little bit about this, but I think it's important to understand that we do have a mental health crisis, that we have a housing crisis, affordability crisis. Can you police any of those away? No. You can't police away homelessness. And the way they talk about our homeless neighbors is so, no wonder there's violence increasing towards homeless neighbors. I see it already, the brutality of it. When we see housing costs go up, when we see, again, the lack or dismissiveness of the mental health crisis that we continue to grow. And it's not just this administration, and the previous administrations as well. No one has moved with the urgency that is needed. Just last week, the committee approved over a dozen bills regarding Washington, D.C. And, I'm just curious. Criminalized children. My colleague from Boston talked about this. It basically interfered with legislation already passed by the local government. Was anyone on this panel consulted? Any of you? Raise your hand if you were consulted on any of these bills. Yeah.
We were not.
One of the things that, AG, I've been listening to you. One of the bills actually eliminates your position completely. What effect would that have? Completely eliminating your position in regards to be able to do the job that you do to protecting all the families in Washington, D.C.
We'll start with the fact that more than 70% of the residents of the District of Columbia overwhelmingly voted for having an independent elected Attorney General.
That's right.
And that's a recognition of the fact that when an Attorney General is directly accountable to the people, directly responsive to the people, we are much better at doing our job in terms of addressing housing affordability and conditions in slumlords, seniors and consumers who are being scammed, addressing the issues that are most important to D.C. residents, because I am accountable to them.
I read wage theft is an issue, workplace discrimination. There's a number of issues that need to be addressed, and they're not going to address that. They want to paint you all as this ugly, dark, all just out in the street. The way, it's just unbelievable because they all live here. I don't see it. I don't see what they see. I don't understand why we're allowing that to happen, because I actually think it's going to hurt our communities. People are going to look at Washington, D.C. folks in a way that I think is going to be very painful, but also, I don't know, Mr. Jackson, I heard the stories. People didn't leave their homes. They weren't leaving their homes. Businesses didn't see people coming into, that's what we want in our nation's capital. Stay in your house, don't move, don't go anywhere, stay fearful. It's unbelievable that my colleagues continue again to eject this narrative and this rhetoric in regards to it. But I think it's important, Mr. Chair, just like in DC, home rule was one out of.
Good afternoon, I'm Kim Murphy. Thanks for joining us on the second hour of the Wisconsin Live Desk. You've been listening to testimony during a House Oversight Committee on crime in D.C. and the focus on local control versus federal control. And crime, definitely a problem that the local level and the federal level recognize, but the pushback is on the use of the National Guard in an American city, superseding the authority of local law enforcement. And for DC leaders, they say that they need to protect some level of independence as a local government. And you're hearing also some pushback on that from Republicans on the House committee who say they see the National Guard deployment as a success. So let's listen in, but just wanted to bring you up to speed on what is happening here. You heard one speaker fearing that if this is allowed to happen, in D.C., that this is just a model for an expansion, that we will see this in other cities. And that is of concern for local law enforcement, local leaders, mayors and governors, particularly since a lot of these, or so far all of these deployments, have been in cities that are have Democrats, either as the mayor or as the governor, and so this is also seen as politicizing the National Guard. So let's listen in.
With your own voting card, don't be giving it to somebody else.
Ms. Tlaib, all right, time. Chair recognizes Ms. Boebert from Colorado. Order. Wait a minute, Ms. Boebert. All right, order. Ms. Boebert.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. This has certainly been lively today. Madam Mayor, I appreciate you being here today, and I have a few questions for you. Do you believe in regard to crime, D.C. City Council is moving the district in the right direction or wrong direction?
The City Council and I are working.
Right or wrong direction?
We're moving in the right direction.
Now, okay. Why in 2023 did you veto the council's updates to the criminal code to eliminate most mandatory minimum sentences, reduce mandatory maximum penalties, and allow jury trials for misdemeanors?
Well, I made clear at the time my objections to the rewrite of the criminal code. The criminal code does need to be updated.
Your objection was this bill does not make us safer, is that correct?
That's what I believe.
Yes, ma'am. Mayor Bowser, as we know, City Council overruled your veto, and the criminal code changes went into effect 2023. This same year, crime rates rose dramatically. They overruled your veto, and then we saw crime rates rise dramatically. Do you believe that this bill contributed to the dramatic rise in crime that we saw in 2023 that's been mentioned here today as well by the council?
Well, the bill didn't go into effect, but I believe that it was necessary for us to look at our entire public safety ecosystem, not just that year, but previous years.
So you had some foresight that this could help, and you said this bill does not make us safer. The council overruled your veto, and at multiple events this year, you opposed National Guard deployments in Washington, D.C. However, since President Trump deployed the National Guard in D.C., violent crime has dropped nearly 50%.
Well, Ms. Boebert, may I?
One moment. I'll give you a chance to respond. Since President Trump deployed the National Guard in D.C., violent crime has dropped nearly 50%. Property crimes like burglary, vehicle theft dropped about 25%, and carjacking saw a dramatic 28% decline compared to the same period in 2024. Will you admit, Mayor Bowser, that President Trump bringing in the National Guard has helped clean up this district? And if not, why have you let them stay here indefinitely?
What I have said is that the increase in federal law enforcement, National Guard is not law enforcement.
You've allowed them to stay here indefinitely, though.
The president controls the D.C. National Guard, and he purports to control the guards from other states.
Have you asked him to remove them?
Yes.
And you would be in favor of that? Do you think that crime would increase once again?
Ms. Boebert, I put in place a mayor's order that is a framework for how D.C. government will work with our federal partners.
Yes, ma'am.
And they include the FBI, the DEA, the ATF,
yes,
U.S.
Sorry, my time
Capitol
is short.
Police.
Again, you're listening to the House Oversight Committee hearing on D.C. crime, two very different visions here. You're hearing questioning from a Republican member on the House Oversight Committee praising the deployment of National Guard troops, saying that it is working. The president says it is working, but you're also hearing the pushback from D.C.'s Mayor Muriel Bowser saying that local law enforcement and the addition of federal law enforcement, which the National Guard is not, has helped, and that she has requested that the National Guard be removed. So as that conversation continues, let's bring you back There you go, like magic. To what is happening around here, some pretty big news. An investment that is happening to our neighbors, Microsoft announcing a huge investment, $4 billion in a data center that's going to be in Pleasant Prairie. This is a big influx of money, but as we've seen with other communities, data centers are not always met and have not been met with open arms by everyone. There are environmental concerns, the use of water, the use of electricity, just so many factors into what these data centers mean down the road. But right now, Tony Evers, our governor, applauding this investment by Microsoft, $4 billion in a data center. We're going to take a break, reset. You're watching the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Credits have been
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk. We are going to take you now to a news conference that is happening, pushing for the extension of the Affordable Health Care Act tax credits. Democrats in the House now addressing that. Let's listen in.
Strong. He himself is a blood cancer survivor who relies on the marketplace for his insurance. So he's going to share his personal experience and what it means to a survivor and to the people he works with day in and day out. And with that, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Oh, yeah, sure. Well, thank you, Congresswoman McDonald-Rivet and Congresswoman Lee, and all the members who signed this letter. I'm also grateful to the members of the media for being here today and this entire group's effort to bring attention to an issue that is not only deeply important to me and my family, but to millions of Americans across the country. My name is Kenny Capps. I'm from Black Mountain, North Carolina. I'm a father, a husband, and I'm a cancer survivor. Physical activity has always been at the center of my life. I've been an endurance athlete for most of my life, running, cycling, swimming through my teens and my 20s. As I got older, I gravitated towards trail running and ultra distance. In 2014, something significant changed. My energy was gone. I couldn't recover from runs that just weeks earlier had been routine. What I thought were muscle strains and overuse injuries turned out to be compression fractures, bone lesions. Simple blood tests revealed that I had a blood cancer called multiple myeloma, and I'm here today because I was able to get the care that I needed when I needed it, thanks to the Affordable Care Act. So for the past 9 years, I've led Cancer Active, a small nonprofit focused on cancer patient quality of life. And without the enhanced healthcare tax credit, I would be priced out of the coverage that my family and I rely on to monitor my cancer, stay healthy, and run Cancer Active and be there for my family. The first year after my diagnosis, my cost would have been on the plus side of $700,000. This is an issue that keeps me up at night. Can I pay for my health insurance, or can I pay the mortgage on my house? Will I be able to continue advocating for cancer patient quality of life? Can my family even afford for me to still be here when my youngest daughter graduates from high school? And that's what's at stake. My ability and the ability of millions of Americans to have health insurance. If Congress does not act, people, just like me, will face hundreds of thousands of dollars in higher premiums each year. At a time of economic uncertainty and rising costs, I know that I can't take on that kind of financial burden. With open enrollment just a few weeks away from today, Congress must move quickly to reauthorize the enhanced healthcare tax credit. Patients like me cannot wait. For us, health insurance doesn't just make life more comfortable, it makes life possible. Thank you for the opportunity to share my story today. Now I'm going to turn it over to the podium to Congressman Stephen Horsford. Congressman, thank you.
Thank you, Kenny, for your courage, your bravery, for your vulnerability and sharing your personal story, and for being here today along with my colleagues, Representatives Kristen McDonald-Rivet and Congresswoman Susie Lee. I'm Stephen Horsford. I represent Nevada's 4th Congressional District. Susie and I share a part of Las Vegas, and also I represent Central Rural Nevada.
Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us on the Wisconsin Live Desk, hearing a little bit of a push from some House Democrats on wanting to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credit, saying that so many people will lose their health care if these credits are not extended. So let's bring you back to a little bit of what's happening here at home. A big announcement, Mount Pleasant. $4 billion is coming your way. Microsoft announcing an additional commitment to Mount Pleasant, to that big AI data center that's being constructed. It's set to open early of 2026. And this is on top of the original $3.3 billion commitment that Microsoft made to Wisconsin to build that AI data center in Mount Pleasant. And so now this morning announcing another $4 billion is coming to Wisconsin to build an additional data center, a second one on that same campus, and that $4 billion will be invested in Wisconsin over the next 3 years. So that brings the total investment from Microsoft into Wisconsin to $7 billion. There is the economics of this, but there is also the concern from residents that we have seen this play out across the country when we talk about these massive campuses of data centers and what this will mean down the road. In Port Washington, a battle is playing out. Residents are not at all happy that a data center is coming there. So, like it or not, in Mount Pleasant, it is happening, and it's set to open in early 2026. We also want to bring you up to speed. There was a news conference earlier today, Milwaukee's mayor touting the effectiveness of their traffic calming measures. Now, this comes on the heels of a deadly accident that claimed the lives of a mother and her 2 children in the city of Milwaukee, on Milwaukee's northwest side. This was the end of a police pursuit. Police were pursuing a 19-year-old suspect. That suspect crashed, T-boned into this family's car, and 3 family members were killed. 2 others are in the hospital right now, fighting, 1 very seriously injured. And so the timing of this, you wonder if this was something that was already planned, or if this is the mayor and the city trying to pivot and trying to say that what they're doing is working. So separate issue from police pursuits and whether or not those should continue. The mayor yesterday, when questioned about that, said in the past when police did change the policy and called off pursuits, well, that was just a flag, he says, for reckless drivers to just let it rip, and they took over the streets. And so things are better, according to the mayor, now that the police department is pursuing reckless drivers. And so standing by that current policy by the Milwaukee Police Department, but in tandem with that, bump outs. It's what they call those islands that narrow the thoroughfares and make it hard to do what we call the Milwaukee slide, when cars illegally pass on the right side. Well, now if they do that, they're going to crash into Cement Island. And so the mayor this morning holding a news conference saying that the traffic calming projects have reduced crashes, saying that crashes are down 15%, injury crashes are down 7% according to the city, and life-changing injury crashes down 28%. These highlighted projects began in 2023. One of the big ones is West Burleigh Street between Roosevelt to North Sherman, North 27th between Center Street and Atkinson, North Avenue, Highland Boulevard, Humboldt Boulevard, Kenwood, Lapham, Whitnell Avenue. So these were identified as dangerous intersections, dangerous streets where crashes were happening. And so the city has invested quite a bit of money to calm the traffic patterns, and the mayor this morning saying that it is working. This is the Wisconsin Live Desk. We're going to take a quick break, and we're keeping an eye on, we are waiting for a news conference to begin in Pennsylvania, an update on the tragic shooting ambush. 5 officers shot, 3 killed in a shooting in York County, Pennsylvania. This started as a domestic situation, officers responding to a domestic situation, which we've heard so many cases this play out time and time again. These are some of the most dangerous calls that officers, law enforcement respond to across the country. We'll be back right after this.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk. What
a beautiful Thursday afternoon weather-wise. We could not have a better day. It's been the case all this week. But if you're starting to notice some of the changes, the trees starting to change, you're not wrong, but we still have a ways to go. And this is always a favorite of mine to know, like, okay, do I need to go and, check out all the colors? Where are we peak? Where are we past peak? Oops, and there is Lisa. We see her shoulders. I'm going to come back to me. But you can see most of Wisconsin is still green. So we have some time yet before we actually start to look like fall outside. Despite what you see around the area, the mums are out at the nurseries and the grocery stores, and the pumpkins are out, but maybe a little early, especially when we're touching 80 degrees. Might not be too good for the pumpkins out there. And on that note, on our weather deck, as I was coming in, I noticed that Steins is, redoing our deck for this season. So stick around for that on Fox 6 News at 4 to get a preview, to see the first glimpse of our weather deck, all decked out for the season. We are keeping an eye on a news conference that is set to begin in Pennsylvania, an update on the tragic situation that played out yesterday afternoon. 5 officers, law enforcement, ambushed. Police were returning to a home to search for a suspected stalker who may have been trespassing, and there they were ambushed. 3 officers were killed, a 4th remains hospitalized. They all worked for the Northern York County Regional Police Department. A dark day for law enforcement all over the country. Police say that they were seeking 24-year-old Matthew James Ruth, who they believed had been at the home the night before. He had an AK-47 and aimed a scope at the house. This is according to police. A woman he had briefly dated lived there. She called police late Tuesday when she spotted him on a trail camera, and we know what happened next. Just a deadly day in Pennsylvania. Law enforcement identified Ruth as the shooting suspect, say that this is an ongoing investigation. Ruth was killed by police at the scene. Investigators twice had visited his home from where the officers were killed, about 10 miles away from where the officers were killed. And when they arrived at noon, this was, they visited first at noon to this woman's house to see if everything was okay. They returned again around 5 o'clock, and they left around midnight. Investigators, that is, after this all played out, with bags of evidence. So just a very, very sad day in Pennsylvania. And as I was mentioning, domestic violence calls are some of the most dangerous calls that law enforcement respond to. They're volatile. Officers don't know a lot of times what kind of situation they are walking into. If the suspect is armed, how heavily armed is the suspect? What kind of weapons does the suspect have? And so, all these variables, but yet and still, they respond to these calls to help people in need, and that's exactly what played out yesterday in Pennsylvania. We're going to pop back into what has been a contentious hearing on the effectiveness of President Trump sending National Guard troops to police D.C. The president says it's been a roaring success. You are right there, D.C.'s mayor, not in agreement, saying federal help, law enforcement help, is welcomed, but the National Guard is not that. Let's listen in.
Fooled as to why suddenly the President of the United States is declaring emergencies in cities across the country and deploying armed troops against American citizens, despite the fact that crime rates, at least in the District of Columbia, are at a 30-year low. This is very obviously a blatant and egregious attempt to redirect attention from a very real and ongoing crime. The crime which is the massive and epic cover-up for Jeffrey Epstein's abuse and that of other rich and powerful men who engaged with and supported him over the course of decades. Some of those very men are in the White House right now. Donald Trump wants so badly for the Epstein story to go away. Trump sued the Wall Street Journal for $10 billion for reporting about this letter. Not surprising, as we are seeing what's happening now with the alarming authoritarian attacks on the free press. This was one of many examples, but he claimed this letter didn't exist. Here it is. This grotesque, disgusting, misogynistic letter which Donald Trump sent to Jeffrey Epstein. He probably laughed. He probably thought this was hilarious, laughing about the abuse of literally thousands of underage girls at the hands of Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, and his powerful...
Okay, listening to that, as these committee hearings do, political points are attempted in the line of questioning, and you certainly heard that there. So let's hop out of that and come back a little local news. Have you heard the news? Summerfest is announcing another headliner. Ed Sheeran is bringing the Loop Tour to Summerfest, Fam, Amp, June 25th, 2026. You can sign up for info and first access to those tickets. Ed Sheeran is coming. Garth Brooks is the pre-show before Summerfest starts. He is coming to Fam before Summerfest, the day before Summerfest starts. And when that was announced, there was such a huge surge in tickets, people demanding tickets, that Garth has added a second show. So already we can look ahead to next summer at Summerfest. Always busy. They don't stop, really, planning for how to make the big gig bigger every year. We're going to take a break as we monitor the situation in Pennsylvania. We are waiting for a news conference, an update on what we know about yesterday's ambush of 5 law enforcement officers. And we see a door opening. Don't want to cut to break too soon. We're going to see if we can sneak one in before this presser begins. You're watching the Live Desk.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Had a physical therapy appointment this morning, and you know what? Everyone is talking about the Packers. There's something about this season, this team. It's exciting. There's a vibe. And Sunday, you can catch that vibe right here on Fox 6. 10 a.m., Fox's NFL kickoff show. 11 a.m., Fox NFL Sunday. And then the game is at noon. and then you can watch the Cowboys and Bears, and then followed by a wrap-up of everything in the evening, Fox 6 Sports Blitz at 10:30. You don't want to miss it. And also, you have the chance to share your thoughts on the team, on the game, on players, specific plays, as seen by TVV. See what we did there, like as seen on TV? Scan that QR code there on your screen. Send your questions to Tim Van Voren and watch for your answers every week. You know, maybe a little sideline coaching. What does Matt LaFleur need to do? Is he doing everything right? This is your chance to be a part of the action. So do that and stay with us, because we have your Packers action this Sunday afternoon, all day football. And again, we are keeping an eye on the situation in Pennsylvania, and as soon as that news conference begins, we will pop into that. I'm going to take you back to that fall foliage map there. Most of Wisconsin is green, so we've got some time yet. I like to see the changes right around Halloween, kind of adds when the leaves are falling and they're blowing along the streets and kids are out trick-or-treating. For me, that's a whole fall vibe, so I'm glad to see that right now we're not rushing to fall. We still have some time before we see those colors really pop in Wisconsin. For me, it is the best season of the year. What do you think? We are also following the pop news, I should say, or when pop culture and politics collide. That is what we have right now. Jimmy Kimmel Live, suspended for a second night. The future of the show hangs in the balance. Kimmel is suspended following comments he made following the Charlie Kirk shooting. So ABC, the parent company, has a big decision to make on whether to stand by Kimmel or to separate from him. Advocates of free speech saying that this is a major blow to free speech and that this should be challenged, and urging ABC to stand up to this. What free speech advocates are saying, cancel culture. That this is what is happening to Jimmy Kimmel. What he said is the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them, and doing everything they can to score political points from it. So that's what he said. Meanwhile, the chair of the Federal Communications Commission, Brendan Carr, said Kimmel appeared to be making an intentional effort, I should say, to mislead the public that the man accused in the fatal shooting was a right-wing Trump supporter. Brendan Carr, of course, is a Trump appointee, so this has become really a flashpoint for the country, whether or not this is free speech that should be protected and is now being censored by the suspension and pressure from the White House applauding the suspension, or is this a business move, a company making a company decision? So we'll see how this plays out, but for right now, Jimmy Kimmel's future is indefinite on whether or not his show will come back. More than 60 affiliates ABC companies are saying that they will not air Jimmy Kimmel if he does come back. He's aired since 2003. The suspension was announced after Nexstar Communications Group and its station said they would not show Kimmel because his Kirk remarks were offensive and insensitive. And Nexstar operates 28 ABC affiliates. So stay tuned to see what happens there. Let's dip in again to Washington, D.C. This is a subcommittee hearing that is really going on quite some time now, and you're hearing the back and forth of crime in D.C., whether or not the deployment of National Guard troops was effective, and does the president have the right to do that, and is this just a model that we're going to see play out in other Democratic cities.
Violates the law.
Covering for pedophiles. I just threw that one in there. Okay, I'll move to the next one. What about revoking birthright citizenship?
Violates the 14th Amendment of the Constitution.
How about violating due process?
Violates the 5th and 14th Amendment of the Constitution.
How about what we see happening with redistricting that would in some way minimize, if not delete, the voices of people of color as they are going through and illegally going through this process? Is there a constitutional amendment that you can think of that is associated with that?
We are going to dip now into Pennsylvania. Let's listen to this news conference that's getting underway on the ambush of 5 officers.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tim Barker. I'm the District Attorney for York County, and we're here today to go ahead and speak to you about the horrific events that occurred yesterday. I don't lie to my constituents. I never will. And so I'm going to say up front, this is extremely difficult. One of the most difficult things that any of us have ever had to go ahead and be a part of and to go ahead and do. But we're here today to go ahead and give you an initial finding of fact. And again, it's an initial finding of fact as to what happened yesterday. And we can go ahead and do so because the investigation has been extremely thorough. I had requested that the Pennsylvania State Police take over the lead on this investigation, and they are doing so in conjunction with the county detectives from our office in a full and complete collaborative effort. Based upon the information we gathered that was provided for my review, which included being out at the crime scene itself for hours yesterday, being walked through various aspects at the scene, which included also a review of body-worn camera footage, a review of dash cam footage, personally having a chance to see where there were various items of ballistics, physical evidence, and unfortunately, the location of our fallen officers. Based upon this review of information, I will go ahead and deliver an initial finding of fact. This is an initial one. There are many steps that need to be completed as part of this investigation. And there are many questions that I will not answer for you at this time because the investigation is ongoing. And there will be a second briefing once all of that information comes back and is complete. Those of you who know how we operate know that is what we do. We speak with what we can when we can, but we will not go ahead and state or confirm anything that would be remotely incomplete and not decisive. So, what do we have here? Well, first off, Matthew J. Ruth, he is the actor. And this is the only time I will mention his name. After this, he will only be referred to as actor. What occurred begins actually on September 16th at approximately 11:23 p.m., and we must start there, because this began as an incident of domestic violence. There was a call that came in from the mother of his ex-girlfriend that the actor was spotted on her property with binoculars looking through the residence, looking through a window. The mother of the ex-girlfriend advised that it was a white male wearing camouflage, and she could see him through a trail camera that was standing in her driveway. And while en route to the location, the mother of the ex-girlfriend advised that the male possibly came there in a black truck that was parked on Emig Road around the corner from the residence at 1879 Hare Road. Officers responded, and upon initial arrival to the property, they did not locate the male. They went to Emig Road and did observe the black 2000 Ford Ranger pickup truck parked along the road in the woods line. It was unoccupied, and then officers went back to the residence and spoke with both the ex-girlfriend of the actor and the mother of the actor. And the ex-girlfriend of the actor had advised that on 8/20 of 2025, an unknown person set her pickup truck on fire while it sat in her driveway. She advised that at the time she suspected that it was her ex-boyfriend who was the culprit, but she wasn't sure, so she requested that the matter not be investigated further. The ex-girlfriend then showed a still photo from the trail camera, and what it showed was a white male wearing all camouflage outfit, standing behind the ex-girlfriend's truck in the driveway. And the male is looking through a scope device with it pointed towards the residence. The ex-girlfriend identified the male in the photo as the actor, and she advised that they put the trail camera up after the incident on August 20th of 2025. The ex-girlfriend confirmed that the actor was, in fact, her ex-boyfriend, and she suspected again that he was involved in the incident of setting her vehicle on fire. She stated that they had dated for only a short period of time and that the actor had never been to her house nor had ever been invited there. The ex-girlfriend also advised that the actor owned and often drove a 2000 black Ford Ranger pickup truck. And when they were reviewing the photo, the officers noticed that the actor had an AR-15 style rifle slung across his chest while looking into the residence. The officers then proceeded over the next several hours, which included assistance as well from the York County Sheriff's Department through the use of their drone, to attempt to locate the actor. They could not find him, despite searching over the next several hours. A warrant was sworn out for the actor's arrest, and the charges in that matter included stalking and loitering and prowling at night. The next morning, detectives from the Northern York County Regional Police Department attempted to go ahead and locate and execute a search warrant on the known residence of the actor. Included in executing that search were 3 detectives: Detective Sergeant Cody Becker, Detective Mark Baker, and Detective Isaiah Emenheiser. 2 other detectives also participated in this search. They arrived at the actor's residence and communicated with his family at 12:11 p.m. They left the residence, having interviewed family and having conducted search at 1:23 p.m. At 2:02 p.m., Detective Sergeant Becker, Detective Baker, Detective Emenheiser, and 2 other Northern Regional detectives arrived on scene at 1879 Hare Road, the location of the incident the previous evening. They arrived and they were searching for the actor. Also accompanying them to assist was a deputy sheriff from the York County Sheriff's Department to again assist with drone action and finding individuals through the usage of a drone. The search went on for the actor, which included various outbuildings, and the drone was being employed to also check neighboring fields. During the course of this search, detectives went to the front door of the residence. They arrived at the door at 2:08 p.m. The initial officer who went to the door was Detective Emenheiser. Right behind him was Detective Baker. Following as well was Detective Sergeant Becker and another Northern York County Regional detective. Final detective remained behind as more of a perimeter view in looking out for the actor and securing the perimeter. Detective Emenheiser discovered that the door was unlocked. Having remembered that the door was left locked by the ex-girlfriend and mother who were not at the residence because they went somewhere else for their safety, they decided that they were going to go in. The door was opened, and upon immediately opening the door, the actor repeatedly fired at the officers with multiple rounds from an AR-15 styled rifle with a suppressor, immediately striking Detective Baker, striking Detective Sergeant Becker, striking at Detective Emenheiser, who he and the other Northern York County Regional Detective who were there closest to the house, as they tried to go back for cover position. He repeatedly fired upon them. All four detectives went down. The actor then proceeded to turn his attention to the deputy sheriff. The deputy sheriff and the other Northern York County Regional Detective began to position themselves to return fire. The Northern York County Regional Detective repeatedly fired at the actor. The actor did strike the deputy sheriff, who was by his vehicle, and also struck the vehicle. The deputy sheriff did himself remove his 9mm. The Northern York County Regional Detective was firing at the actor with his AR-15 style rifle. The actor repeatedly was firing his rifle at the deputy sheriff, striking him. The deputy sheriff went down and went to try to retrieve his rifle and go for safety as well to take cover to return fire. The actor went up towards the roadway where the vehicles were to engage in fire with the deputy sheriff, continuing to fire at him. The deputy sheriff returned fire with his 9mm handgun. The Northern York County Regional Detective also was returning fire with his rifle. While up at the roadway when the actor was there was a final exchange of gunfire. After that exchange, the actor went down. The actor became deceased. Following this, the Northern York County Regional Detective immediately went to see about rendering aid. He immediately went down first to his fallen officers from Northern York County Regional Police Department by the House and discovered detectives that were non-responsive. Detective Sergeant Cody Becker, Detective Mark Baker, and Detective Isaiah Emenheiser were all killed following the brutal ambush that was committed upon them by the actor. The final Northern York County Regional Detective.
We're going to leave you with this press conference as it continues, but some just heartbreaking details. This started as a report of a young woman who briefly dated a man. He never was even invited to her home, began stalking her. She believes he set her car on fire in August. She was very concerned, installed a trail camera, and that trail camera on the 16th picked up a man in camo with an AR-styled rifle. She called authorities. They were investigating. This played out over a day. Officers eventually went back, detectives, to her home where she was not there. She and her mother had left because they did not feel safe and they were staying someplace else. The officers, the detectives found the door was open to the home. They went inside and they were ambushed. And what ensued after that, 3 detectives shot dead inside of that home, and regional detective and a deputy sheriff also shot. And in the ultimate exchange, the actor was killed. You're watching the Wisconsin Live Desk. We leave you with the remainder of this news conference.
Officer arrives, another member of the Northern York County Regional Police Department